Welcome to Life Stories, where every story leaves you with a profound lesson. Today, we bring you the heartwarming journey of Jessica, a woman faced with a life-changing decision. On her way to an important job interview, Jessica is caught between following her ambition or helping a stranger in need. Little did she know, this simple act of kindness would lead her to an unexpected reward. Tune in to discover how empathy and compassion can truly change lives. Subscribe to the channel to start today's story with us. The chill of the early morning air hit my skin as I stepped out of the apartment. My mind already racing. The city around me was alive. The streets bustling with people headed to work. Commuters rushing to their own destinations. Each of them swallowed by the rush of the day. But for me, this was a moment that felt bigger than any ordinary Tuesday. My heart was already pounding in anticipation. The interview at Hope Foundation was scheduled for 9 a.m., and I had been dreaming of this moment for years. This was my chance to finally make a difference. To join an organization that had touched the lives of so many, including my own family. They were known for their work in providing support and care to those in need. And their mission to help others aligned perfectly with my values. It was everything I had worked for. But today, the universe seemed intent on testing me. As I glanced at my watch, it read 8:40. I was still 3 blocks away. And I knew time was slipping away with every step I took. My breath quickened as I found myself gripping the handle of the bus tightly, willing it to go faster, to just get me there on time. The bus lurched forward, screeching to a halt as it arrived at another stop, sending a wave of tension through the passengers. I tried to steady my nerves. I can't miss this opportunity, I whispered to myself, trying to ignore the rising panic. The bus was packed with others, all going in their own directions. And I felt a heavy weight of competition in the air. Hope Foundation had posted the job opening months ago, and the announcement had been clear. Only one candidate would be selected. The thought of all the other hopefuls out there, all vying for the same position, filled me with urgency and a deeper resolve. I had prepared extensively for this interview. I had researched the foundation's core values, memorized potential questions, and even rehearsed my posture in front of the mirror. I felt ready, but in the pit of my stomach, there was a sense that something still might go wrong. The bus jerked to a stop again, this time at my destination. I could see the tall building where the interview was set to take place in the distance, the glass windows gleaming in the early morning light. I wasn't the only one getting off at this stop. Several other candidates joined me, all clutching their own files, all walking in the same hurried manner. The race was on, but as I joined the crowd, my attention was diverted by a soft cry. "Help me, please." A faint voice broke through the noise of the bustling street. My heart skipped a beat, and I turned toward the sound. At first, I wasn't sure what I was seeing. By the side of the road, an elderly man lay sprawled on the pavement, his clothes tattered and his face twisted in pain. He clutched his chest, and his voice was barely audible. "Help me," he repeated, his words becoming fainter. Everything in me froze. I felt a deep, almost physical pull toward him. But I also felt the weight of the crowd around me, the pressure to keep moving. The building was just ahead. My future was just ahead. I could almost hear the tick of the clock in my head. The seconds slipping away. The candidates around me didn't even seem to notice. They continued walking, their faces set in expressions of concentration. Some slowed their pace for a moment, glancing at the man. But the moment was fleeting. "Who has time for this now?" A young man in a sharp black suit muttered to his companion. "We'll all be late." The woman beside him nodded, shaking her head. "Poor thing. But what can we do? We can't risk losing this opportunity." I could feel the gnawing guilt rising within me. The man's cry echoed in my mind. But I was also aware of the deep fear of what might happen if I chose to stop. Was it worth jeopardizing everything I had worked for? Was it worth losing this opportunity for someone else's emergency? My heart raced as the internal conflict raged within me. Just as I was about to continue, a tall man in a navy blue tie, walking past the elderly man, stopped briefly. He glanced down at the man with a mixture of pity and irritation. "Sir, maybe you should call for someone instead of lying here," he said brusquely. "We're all in a rush." Then, without waiting for a response, he walked away. I clenched my hands around my file. Anger mixing with frustration. The man's coldness felt like a slap to the face. I hated this feeling, the gnawing guilt of walking away, coupled with the fear of jeopardizing my future. I tried to rationalize it. It wasn't my fault. I didn't make him fall. I had every right to prioritize my future. But then, as I turned to follow the others, something tugged at me. Something in the old man's tear-streaked face reminded me of my late grandfather. I remembered the time he had fallen in the bathroom. The long minutes that felt like hours before anyone came to help. I couldn't just ignore this man. I couldn't live with myself if I did. With a final exhale, I made my decision. I rushed to his side. Kneeling down beside him. "Sir, I'm here. Let me help you." The man's eyes widened in relief. He reached out, gripping my arm with a strength that surprised me. "Thank you, dear." I thought no one would stop. I quickly assessed the situation. His ankle was swollen, and his breathing was labored. My heart pounded in my chest. But I focused. I pushed aside my fear of being late and concentrated on his immediate need. "Can you move your foot?" I asked gently. He winced, shaking his head. "No, it hurts too much. I think I twisted it." I scanned the street for help. But the crowd had long since passed. Everyone moving toward their own goals. I felt the weight of that. The selfishness of the world around me. Was everyone so consumed with their own ambitions that they couldn't spare a moment for basic decency? I couldn't understand it. Then, I spotted a small restaurant nearby. "Sir, I'm going to help you get there," I said, determination in my voice. "Can you stand if I support you?" He nodded, hesitantly. "I'll try." With great effort, I helped him to his feet. He leaned heavily on me. His steps slow and labored. His body shaking as I tried to steady him. Every step felt like an eternity. And my heart raced as I thought about the ticking clock. "I'm so sorry," he murmured, his voice trembling. "You must have somewhere important to be." I forced a smile, even though my chest was tight. "Don't worry about it right now. I just want to make sure you're okay." The walk to the restaurant seemed to take forever. But we finally made it. I guided the man inside, flagged down a waiter, and explained the situation. The waiter rushed to bring ice for his swollen ankle. And I helped the man into a chair. "Thank you," the man said, his voice full of emotion. "I don't know what I would have done without you. You saved my life today." I smiled, but my mind was still racing. I glanced at my watch. It was already past the time I should have arrived. I had to go. "I have to go now," I said, gently. "But you'll be okay here, right? The staff will take care of you." He grasped my hand, his grip warm. "You're a kind soul," he said, tears glistening in his eyes. "God bless you, my child." I squeezed his hand and turned to leave, my heart pounding with both exertion and dread. I couldn't shake the thought of the interview slipping away. But then, as I sprinted toward the building, a small voice in my mind whispered that sometimes doing the right thing wasn't about convenience, it was about courage. I ran faster, my breath coming in short bursts as I sprinted toward the towering office building that loomed ahead. Its sleek glass windows seemed to mock me as I dashed past. The rhythm of my footsteps thumping in my chest like a constant reminder of the decision I had just made. Each step felt heavier than the last as the weight of what I had chosen, what I had given up, pressed down on me. I could still hear the elderly man's voice in my head, his words full of gratitude. His shaking hand as he gripped mine had been a silent thank you that echoed louder than any job offer ever could. But now, as I neared the entrance of the building, I could feel the sharp pang of fear creeping into my thoughts. I was late. I had made a sacrifice to help a stranger. But now, I feared that my opportunity would slip away. As I approached the front doors of the building, I saw a crowd of well-dressed candidates milling around the reception area. The polished floors gleamed under the artificial lights, and the air was thick with tension. They all looked so put together, so confident. I, on the other hand, could feel the disheveled state of my hair and the sweat still beading on my forehead from the hurried walk. My file was gripped tightly in my hand, but I felt like it was just an accessory, an afterthought to the rushed, panicked mess I had become. I pushed the door open, and the receptionist immediately looked up. her polite smile faltering for a moment as she took in my appearance. I tried to steady my breathing, but it felt impossible. My heart still raced, my mind still spinning. "Are you here for the interview?" the receptionist asked. Her voice polite but firm. "Yes," I replied, my voice cracking slightly. I quickly tried to clear my throat. I'm here for the 9 a.m. interview." She glanced at the clock on the wall. The minute hand had already passed the hour. "I'm afraid you're late," she said flatly. "The interviews have already started." A sinking feeling spread in my chest. All the effort I had put into preparing for this moment, all the research and rehearsals, it seemed like it had been for nothing. My opportunity, the one I had worked so hard to seize, was slipping through my fingers. I opened my mouth to explain, to beg for just a moment's chance. But the words felt stuck in my throat. "Please," I implored, trying to steady my voice. "I just need a chance. Please, I know I can do this." The receptionist's face softened for just a moment. But then her gaze became resolute. "I'm sorry, but we can't make exceptions. You'll have to reschedule." The finality of her words hit me like a punch to the stomach. I had come all this way, sacrificed my time, my nerves, and even helped someone in need, only to be told that none of it mattered. I could feel the sting of rejection deep in my bones, and the humiliation flooded over me in waves. I turned away from the receptionist, my heart heavy in my chest. I couldn't stay here, couldn't endure the eyes of the other candidates as they silently judged me. The room felt suffocating, the walls closing in as the reality of my failure settled in. I stepped back into the lobby, unable to look anyone in the eye. The faces around me, those candidates who had arrived on time, perfectly composed, felt like a reminder of my own shortcomings. My sacrifice had cost me everything, and now I was left with nothing but the bitter taste of regret. The weight of my decision pressed on my shoulders as I walked away from the interview venue. I glanced down at my watch again, feeling the tick of the seconds as they passed me by, reminding me that time was something I couldn't control. I had helped the man. Yes, but now I was unsure of the price I had paid for doing the right thing. Was it worth it? Outside, the city continued on as if nothing had changed. The cars drove by. The people walked briskly, each of them on their own path, unaware of the turmoil in my chest. I couldn't help but wonder if I had made a mistake. What if I had walked away, just like the others, and ignored the man's plea? What if I had made it to the interview on time? I paused at the top of the steps, looking out at the busy street ahead. The noise of the city felt distant, muffled in the chaos of my thoughts. I had chosen kindness, but was it the right choice? The fear of never getting another opportunity, of being left behind once again, gnawed at me. Would I regret helping that man? Or would I find peace knowing that I did the right thing, even if it cost me everything? The street stretched before me, full of uncertainty, but I couldn't shake the nagging doubt that I had missed my chance at something greater. The streets felt even more overwhelming as I walked aimlessly, my heart heavy with a mixture of frustration and self-doubt. Every corner I turned, every passing face, seemed to remind me of my failure. I thought of the man I helped, the relief in his eyes when I stopped. But that feeling was overshadowed by the pain of missing my interview, of watching my dreams slip away because I had made the choice to care. I stopped at a small cafe, the familiar aroma of fresh coffee and pastries doing little to ease the tightness in my chest. I sat by the window, staring out at the busy street, trying to make sense of everything that had happened. I was exhausted, both physically and emotionally. The decision I had made, to prioritize helping a stranger over my own ambitions, now felt like a monumental mistake. What was the point of caring for others if it meant sacrificing your own chance at a better life? I pulled my phone from my pocket, absently checking for any messages, any sign that things might not be as bleak as they seemed. My mother's message was waiting for me, her words full of warmth and encouragement. "How did the interview go? Sweetheart, I'm praying for you. I know you can do it." I wanted to respond, to tell her that everything had gone wrong, that I had failed, but something held me back. I wasn't sure I could put my disappointment into words. Before I could sink too deep into my thoughts, my phone buzzed again. It wasn't a message this time, but an email notification. I frowned. unsure of what to expect. I had already been rejected for the interview. There was no way this was good news. But when I opened the email, my breath caught in my throat. The subject line read, "Important update, interview results, NGO position." My hands trembled as I opened it, not sure what I was about to read. The email was short and to the point, but the words felt like they hit me in waves. Dear Jessica Harris, we are pleased to inform you that you have been selected for the position of Program Coordinator at Hope Foundation. After careful consideration, we have found you to be the ideal candidate for our mission. Your selfless act of compassion has not gone unnoticed. We believe you embody the values that are essential to our work. You have shown that you understand the importance of empathy and care in a way that no resume could ever convey. Please report to the office at 9 a.m. tomorrow for your first day. We look forward to working with you. I blinked, reading the email again and again, as if I couldn't quite believe it. Was this a mistake? How could this be? I hadn't even made it on time for the interview. I had sacrificed my chance to impress them. And yet, here I was, selected for the position. Still in disbelief, I handed the phone to my mother, who had just entered the room. She looked at me, her eyes wide with surprise as she read the email. This can't be right, she said, her voice trembling slightly. You've been selected? I nodded, still trying to process the words. The shock was overwhelming, but it was also mingled with an overwhelming sense of gratitude, in a way I couldn't explain. I felt like this moment was something more than just luck or timing. I had made a decision based on what I thought was the right thing to do. And somehow, it had worked out. My mother reached out, placing her hand on my shoulder. I told you that kindness always finds its way back, she said softly. You didn't do this for reward. But it seems the world has its own way of rewarding the heart. The weight of the past few hours, of my decision, of the rejection, of everything I had questioned about my choices, began to lift. I realized that I hadn't just been fighting for a job. I had been fighting for the kind of person I wanted to be. A person who could choose empathy over ambition, even when it seemed impossible. The next morning, I arrived at Hope Foundation at exactly 9 a.m., my heart racing with excitement and nerves. The sleek building stood in front of me, its modern glass facade glistening in the morning sun. I had walked past it countless times, dreaming of one day working there. But now, it felt different. It felt real. Inside, the atmosphere was alive with energy. Staff moved quickly, coordinating efforts, answering calls, and discussing plans. The walls were lined with photographs of families, communities, and children, the faces of those the foundation had helped. Seeing their smiles, I felt a lump form in my throat. This was why I had fought for this moment. This was why I had chosen to be someone who cared. As I stood in the lobby, a voice called my name. I turned to see a middle-aged woman with warm hazel eyes and a commanding presence. Her name tag read Elizabeth Grant, the director of the foundation. Jessica, she asked with a smile. It's a pleasure to meet you. Welcome to Hope Foundation. Come with me. There's someone I'd like you to meet. I followed her through the halls, my nerves tingling with anticipation. As we approached the end of the hallway, I couldn't help but feel like something significant was about to happen. The office was modest but filled with bookshelves lined with texts on community development and social change. Behind the desk sat an elderly man, his kind face instantly recognizable. It was the same man I had helped yesterday. My breath caught in my throat. How was he here? He looked up, his eyes warm with recognition. Ah, Jessica, he said, standing up and extending his hand. We finally meet. Under less traumatic circumstances. I froze, confusion swirling in my mind. You're the one from yesterday? The man I helped? I stammered. Elizabeth chuckled softly. This is Mr. Robert Hargrove, the founder of Hope Foundation. He was overseeing the interviews yesterday. A shock ran through me. He had been the man I helped on the street? My mind raced as the truth began to dawn on me. You staged that situation? I asked in disbelief. Mr. Hargrove nodded, his expression calm. In a way, it wasn't just a test. It was a way to see who truly understands what it means to serve others. You were the only one who stopped to help me. My heart stopped. The man I had helped wasn't just a stranger. He was the very person who had been testing my heart. And I had passed. Tears welled in my eyes. But this time, they were tears of relief. I had chosen kindness. And that had made all the difference. As I sat there, overwhelmed with emotion, Mr. Hargrove's words echoed in my mind. He wasn't just the founder of Hope Foundation. He was a man who had been through his own struggles. Someone who understood what it meant to care for others. This foundation wasn't just about qualifications or resumes. It was about heart. About empathy. The kind of empathy that had guided my decision the day before. "You're extraordinary, Jessica," he said, his voice soft but firm. "You didn't know who I was. Yet you helped me. That's the kind of person we need here. You've proven your worth in ways no interview could measure." I smiled through my tears. The weight of everything, the fear, the self-doubt, the guilt, lifted from my shoulders. In that moment, I knew that choosing kindness hadn't just changed my future. It had given me a sense of purpose. A deeper understanding of the power of empathy and love in a world often focused on personal gain. Walking out of Hope Foundation, I felt a sense of peace that I had never known before. I wasn't just starting a new job. I was beginning a new chapter of my life. One where helping others would always come first. And as I stood at the steps of the building, looking up at the clear sky, I realized that my path was no longer just about me. It was about the people I could help. The lives I could touch. I had made the right choice. And that choice would define me forever. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming life stories. Keep liking, commenting, and sharing to spread the message of kindness and empathy. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.